Bienvenidos a un programa más de la serie. Hoy en adelante, una exhibición de impresiones de Cuba en United Community Center. También existe preocupación entre los estudiantes sordos de MATC acerca de la falta de servicios que esta institución les ofrece. Y Al Pinckney, Interim Vice President of Student Services, responde a nuestras preguntas sobre esta situación de los estudiantes. El Centro de la Comunidad Unida, UCC, presentó la exhibición Cuban Printmaking. Esta presentación se llevó a cabo con la ayuda del Departamento de Arte de la Universidad Northwest de Missouri, la cual trabaja con el Taller Experimental de Gráficas de La Habana, Cuba. Veamos este reportaje de Johnny Muñoz.
This collection is a collection of contemporary Cuban printmaking that is actually owned by Dr. Antonio Rosella of Kansas City, Missouri. And my work with him was collaborative. I helped him collect and curate as well as present the exhibition. And the university is presently custodian of the collection. Workshop of contemporary experimental printmaking in Habana is a collective of artists in Cuba. They are not all printmakers, some are of other disciplines, painting, sculpture, but it's a central location that anybody interested in the print arts tends to have something to do with. I became familiar with and introduced to the workshop through Dr. Rosella, has organized a medical mission out of Kansas City called Medical Missions. And they travel to developing countries in the world, and they do surgeries and consultations and all sorts of medical treatments for people, especially children who are in need. The communion with the artists in Cuba was simultaneous with a medical missions trip there. And so there were 4 artists who were along with the doctors, and we actually spent time in one of the children's hospitals in Cuba, working with the children and doing some art projects and painting and drawing on the hallways and whatnot. But it also gave us a great opportunity to interact with the artists. And it was a fantastic outreach, certainly something that I benefited greatly from. And Dr. Rosella's idea for this collection, for this exhibition, was to very philanthropically get it out across the United States and introduce to our own citizens what kind of contemporary work is actually taking place in a country that unfortunately is somewhat isolated from us. The idea started from a very small collection. Dr. Rosella had collected work from about 5 artists, and one evening when he was introducing his idea of creating an exhibition, gave some thought on how that might happen, and it turned out that the central source was the experimental workshop. All of the artists who are in this exhibition have worked at one time or another at the Taller. And that does not mean that they work exclusively there. I mean, many of them have studios in their own living quarters, in their houses. In Cuba, they don't tend to have studios. You know, they're a room or maybe at the most 2 rooms in their living quarters that might be dedicated to, you know, doing their artwork. The Atelier becomes a very important central meeting point because it does have this space and it does give the artists who don't have the facilities, the printing presses, you know, and all of the hardware that's required to make, you know, work of this nature. It gives them an opportunity to have that. So it's like you know, where older artists can mentor younger artists, and there's a collaborative spirit and a relationship that, you know, is infectious. It wasn't my intent to create a collection of cohesive works, you know, works that all had a similar style or a similar theme. What we wanted to do was to create a collection of prints which gave a very wide representation of the differing styles and the differing techniques that are contemporary to the artistic climate in Cuba. That Cuban artists are alive and well. They're amazingly imaginative, that they are connected to the rest of the world, that they persevere, that they are resilient, that they're very well adjusted. And so the work is representing things that are important to them in their lives, in their families, in their politic, in their passion. Dr. Rosella's intent from the beginning of this collection was to travel it, to get it into wonderful locations like the Latino Center here in Milwaukee, and make it part of an extension of our culture, you know, to raise people awareness and you know, let it be a bit of an outreach, an artistic outreach. And so, you know, we're going to continue to make an attempt to travel the show and exhibit it in any venue that would want to host it. The artists have very, very optimistic attitudes on life, considering all the hardships that they've had. You know, I would hope that would come through, and that we would, you know, the viewers of this exhibition could see again, you know, the commonalities and similarities, you know, that we have culturally, and not the differences. I just want to thank the Latino Center here in Milwaukee for hosting this exhibit and giving us an opportunity to put the artwork up for you know, the citizens of the city and its many, many art students. I mean, it seems like Milwaukee has a very healthy arts culture, visual arts and performing arts, and you know, I would just compliment you all on what you're doing here.
Existe una preocupación entre estudiantes sordos y maestros de MATC debido a la falta de un consejero sordo que pueda entender mejor las necesidades de estos estudiantes. En nuestro siguiente reportaje recogemos los testimonios que nos ayudan a comprender las barreras que la comunidad sorda enfrenta para obtener educación.
A decline in the deaf students population, including Latino deaf students, is causing concerns among instructors and frustration among students at Milwaukee Area Technical College.
Sometimes there's not the coordination from a specific person that we used to have who actually coordinated the scheduling of interpreters, worked with the deaf students in scheduling their classes, getting them admitted into programs. That has been really lacking in the last several years, and so we have noticed a decline in the deaf student population.
The lack of a deaf counselor able to directly communicate with deaf students has existed for years.
Well, when I first came into MATC, I felt a little awkward because when I came in, it was really hard to look for and find the right person to work with me and really connect with. I mean, in the past, there was really no deaf counselor, anything like that. I went to MATC and I met like an interpreter. They have interpreting services there. And just getting some information about classes. So I walked in and just wondering where the interpreters were. And actually maybe a deaf counselor, they had someone here like that. So I was led over to the counseling and I met a lady and some sign, but the woman didn't know, how to sign, maybe a little bit. So it's like, I'm going to call an interpreter. I really felt like something was missing. She should know how to sign. If she's going to be working for the deaf services in this area.
Hearing people are mostly not informed about the barriers faced by the deaf.
Deaf means lots of different things. Hard of hearing all the way to profoundly deaf. How to work with an interpreter effectively. Understanding that deaf students learn differently than hearing students. And the accommodation is an interpreter, of course, but there a lot of times reading and reading levels are lower than hearing students, and so that instructors need to understand that deaf students will need some extra support.
There are different ways in which deaf people learn to communicate. Pam learned to use her voice even when she was unable to hear.
I grew up what they call orally. That means that I did not use sign language. My mother sent me to a school, a special school, when I was 3 years old. At that time, my parents were against sign language. They felt that it was something shameful to have to use sign language, that it did not create a pretty picture at all, and they wanted their little girl to grow up speaking.
Lucy is Pam's sister-in-law. She grew up in a family that was deaf.
I have aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas who are all deaf. I have a few hearing cousins, but everyone in the family signs proficiently. We communicate freely without any problems in our family.
Hubert, Pam's husband, thinks that life in the past used to be more difficult for the deaf.
Oh yes, much more. Yes, it's gotten a lot better than before. Because before it was always handwritten, I'm going back and now we get interpreters, and it was much faster just writing things down. Before, but now it's much clearer, yes, much better.
Katrina attends MATC, and she is the president of the Deaf Students Club.
I feel supported to a degree. We don't have a deaf counselor, which would be nice. And we definitely would like to see one put into place. They're meeting some basic needs. They're helping us to improve our basic skills. But we've lost many students because we don't have the types of services we would like to see ideally.
Linda is an instructor at MATC, and she's aware of the laws that grant the right to education to the deaf community.
First, let me back up to the issue of what's missing. The Americans with Disabilities Act. The requirements of that act have not been adequately met for the deaf community here at MATC. For example, when we have an open house and there are speakers or different events, interpreters are not routinely provided for events like that. That hurts us very badly. It makes my heart grieve because I'm deaf and I'm also an instructor too. And to be honest with you, if there's a meeting and I as an instructor am supposed to go, like on the first day of class or something, they welcome everyone back and all. They never have an interpreter for me. So I'm not important enough to be welcomed back along with the other teachers?
Besides the lack of a deaf counselor, there's also a concern about the need for proficient translators able to help students to understand classes' content.
But at the end of the semester, then fall, we took up more classes. and I asked for an interpreter, specific name. I wanted that person, specifically, I wanted them to work with me, and that would be great. And so, I mean, I pay them out of my own pocket. And later in fall, I mean, one of the interpreters, I mean, I liked. It was great. It was a good match. But the other interpreter, I don't know why they didn't provide that, even though I asked for them. I just, you know, I was patient. I said, okay, we just kind of went through the semester. And unfortunately, I failed the class.
Deaf students do not consider themselves people with a disability.
Don't misunderstand. Hearing people tend to misunderstand that deafness is a handicap. However, we ourselves do not consider ourselves handicapped. We consider ourselves to have a different culture. Oh, absolutely. I'm very happy with my life. I'm very proud of who I am. I'm proud of being deaf. However, I do get embarrassed sometimes when I'm writing back and forth with hearing people because my written English is not my dominant language. My first language is American Sign Language. People think, oh, you're deaf, you're handicapped, you're not equal to what hearing people can do. And we don't view ourselves as handicapped at all. You know, I have 2 healthy feet to walk, I have 2 healthy hands to communicate with, we're able to fix cars, we're able to do the same things hearing people can do.
Retention is an important aspect that the deaf community is lacking at MATC.
Academic support centers, and that's such an important piece to retain students. I think just information, I think, is lacking sometimes. Word gets out that things are happening at MATC, and they sort of take a negative kind of focus. And I think if we did have a central person who could be sort of helping to recruit students, to let them know that the services are here, that we offer all these different accommodations, academic support centers for writing, math, science, things like that, that all students have a right to receive. I think that kind of thing would really encourage the deaf community to come back to MATC, and I think that has been lacking in the last few years.
Deaf people need opportunities to show what they can do. They want to succeed, they want to accomplish their goals. Don't oppress deaf people, but support them and encourage them.
Al Pinckney es el vicepresidente interino de los servicios para estudiantes en MATC y hoy se encuentra con nosotros para conversar sobre las necesidades especiales que tienen los estudiantes sordos que asisten a MATC. Mr. Pinckney, thank you very much for joining us on Adelante.
Thanks for having me.
Mr. Pinckney, there is a concern among deaf students and instructors about the lack of a deaf counselor and about the issue of a deaf students population lowering its numbers.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I can really address the numbers, but I think we have a process in place that assists students with obtaining information as it relates to MATC in our process. Mm-hmm. I think we have access for students to make them inclusive in terms of providing the information that's necessary that tells them about MATC. I think we are tied in with the Academic Support Center here that can identify once a student has self-identified what their need is at that time, and then we can link them up to the proper resources to help them achieve their goal here.
Mr. Pinckney, 1 year ago, when Vicky Martin was the interim president of MATC, there was a position open for a deaf specialist. Nothing has been known about it since then. Do you know what is happening with that position?
We had the position posted a couple times, but we had to kind of re-look at the job description that we had, so we pulled it down. Just recently, we actually had 2 interpreters that are waiting to be licensed. We actually utilized them in that position for about 2 months over the Christmas and New Year's holiday, and they were actually working in the Welcome Center both here at the Milwaukee campus and at the West Alice campus to help students with the process we're talking about. And right now we're in the process of going back and posting the position again and looking for applicants for it.
Well, in the 90s, at the beginning of the 90s, there was a student specialist who was very fluent on sign language, American Sign Language.
Okay.
And because of that, there was a very strong a population of deaf students at MATC, and it was one of the best programs in the Midwest. Since then, there is a complaint among the instructors and also the students that MATC has lost its credibility because this lack of attention, this lack of advocating, this lack of services to the students. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware of if students come to us and they self-identify that they need services as relates to deaf and or hard of hearing students. We do provide services to the maximum that we can. If there's students who need services and we don't know about it, that I'm not aware of. But any students that have identified themselves through the special accommodations area, the services are there for them. I mean, once we know that they need certain types of equipment or a certain type of service, I mean, I think we do the best that we can within our means and reasonably provide services for those students.
I receive from Students Accommodation Services a number about how many deaf students still at MATC or are currently registered, and it shows around 35 students. I also talked to the instructors, and they think that there are between 20 and 25 students, deaf students, who are just part-time students. If MATC could provide deaf specialists, these deaf specialists can go back into the community and recruit more deaf students. Do you see like a possibility in the future of MATC to consider this aspect that is very important for a very important, I will say, part of the students group at MATC?
I think it's important that we recognize that there is a need out there and that we look for the possibly the best candidate that maybe can serve a dual role as relates to the deaf students and the deaf population in the community, and then at the same time within the constraints of MATC's fiscal responsibility to provide what it is that the students need in order to increase our numbers. But again, if students don't self-identify to us as the numbers that special accommodations gave you, those numbers only come if the students tell us that they need us. So, and I know they advocate through open house sessions that we have in the community, and when we have functions here at the college, we'll make sure that we have interpreting services available for students, so that way if they do need services from us, we're there to help them.
I talked to some of the students who were part of the story that we just presented, and they complained that they would like to have a direct contact with you, and they would like to know in a regular basis what is it happening with that position, because they complain also about the lack of interpretation services for them, since there is not a person who specializes on, deaf students as it is. What would you respond to those students?
Well, I would have to research and investigate. If they're asking for help from us and we're not responding, that there is a problem. So I need to make sure that we're, if the students are coming to us for assistance, that we're responding in a timely manner, and if there's something that we can't do right away, that we are working to assist them in getting them what they need.
I actually talked to a student who looked for you this past week because she couldn't find interpreters for the classes that she's taking in here. Would that be possible?
She can either try to contact me or contact Carol Spain.
She said that she tried to contact you because she was really in a bad situation for not having interpretation. She's not able to take classes without an interpreter.
If I'm not here, there's certainly somebody else that can assist them. So, I mean, there's several doors that students can go to in terms of staff members here that they can be put in touch with the right person to help them. So, I mean, if I'm not immediately around, there's my assistant Cindy Lehner who's there, Kathy Bodie who works in student accommodations is around, Carol Spain who's in charge of the interpreters. There's someone that they could go to and ask for assistance. So if that's not happening, then I need to know.
Mr. Pinckney, does MATC recognize that the deaf students are a minority? They have their own culture. Does MATC recognizes that American Sign Language is the third more used language in the U.S.?
Is your question, do we recognize
it? Are you aware, do you recognize that this is a community that really needs help, that they are their own culture and they speak they use the third more used language in the United States?
Well, I think we recognize that this is a service that we need to provide to our students. I don't know if we categorize it as a minority population, if that's what your question is, but we recognize that this is a population of students that need some special attention or special assistance. And again, I think we will provide that to the best of our ability. That we can do in a more reasonable way.
Mr. Pinckney, I would like you to have the opportunity to tell this community that is knocking on my door and saying, we really need someone to advocate for us. The services at MATC used to be much better before. They don't understand why they don't have the same attention and services that they used to have decades before. What would you respond to them in looking to their needs and to their requests?
Well, my response would be is when someone identifies to us that they have that need for services, that we will certainly investigate what we can do to make sure that we open those doors to MATC and gain access just like any other student that comes to us for help. I mean, I certainly can make that commitment that we'll look into that.
Mr. Pinckney, thank you very much for accepting this invitation.
You're welcome.
Al final de un programa más, por favor déjenos saber sus comentarios al teléfono 297-7544 o escríbanos a nuestro correo electrónico adelante@matc.edu. Visítenos en nuestro sitio del internet en mptv.org y en Facebook. Sintonícenos en canal 10.1 o 36.2 todos los martes a las 6:30 de la tarde. Y en canal 36.1 los miércoles a las 12:30 de la medianoche y los domingos a las 5:30 de la tarde. Soy Patricia Gómez, muy buenas noches.